Kentucky's got to be careful. The cell tower and all that with the cell phones, the problem is all the earthquakes and everything in California, Texas, and Nevada and all that, and the flooding up into the fiber optics that feed the cell towers. It isn't hacking or sabotage. And Kentucky especially has to be real careful because the moon right now is in the position of getting right about 11 o'clock midnight, which is straight through the earth. There's the moon on the backside, which is on the high third of it. And the problem is that right after it comes out under the moon, where Kentucky and everybody else is in New York and above, when it comes out from under it, that's when you get that instant release expansion out with everything pushing on the top edge of the earth where there is a thin crust for all that sun's energy to go straight through it and energize it. And then it boils right up, steam kick, which knocks the all hydrogen, oxygen, sets it nuclear in the water by all the sewage and equipment that's getting in the water. That increases the surface area to make it go nuclear to set off all the nitrogen in the air. And when it does, it knocks all nitrogen, oxygen, and hydrogen downscale. You ain't got nothing to breathe for one thing, let alone there's no nitrogen hold the plane up. That's why all these helicopters, especially medevacs and stuff, you got to make sure high RPM, and it's just cyclic, instant. Still got that full power torque of its full throttle when you're near the ground. That gives you that extra instant. You don't have time to wait for the engine to speed up. You will have already hit the ground. And that's why the drones have to have that same capability. And because it's the same with any kind of drone, and especially the smaller ones. You're losing a lot of them you wouldn't otherwise, because when there's no nitrogen in the air from it just steam burn up through, that's when there's no support for any aerodynamics, and it'll drop 50, 100 feet in an eye blink. And you can't speed up an engine fast enough, but you can hit cyclic full power on an already full throttle. So that's one of the main things you got to do. But right after, probably about midnight going into 1, you'll see a cloud over real quick, which it did last night. And then also, you will also know a lot of people will notice you start having trouble breathing. That's because the oxygen ain't there because of that steam kick. It burnt and went downscale, which is what it does. And that's also your asphyxiation time, where it can push nitrogen or push the natural gas, or which is odorless, up, that you get asphyxiated, and or carbon monoxide and everything else. And if your heart and breathing is panic attack, but your heart and breathing is able to speed up, that's you're getting asphyxiated, head to high ground. If it doesn't speed up and everything else, that's your carbon monoxide and everything else slowing it. You can't. So it's still head for high ground, look for oxygen, and talk to any officials about it. But it's near morning too, that at the same time that it gets extremely dangerous because of that. But when you notice a panic attack where your heart and breathing speed up, that isn't a panic attack. That's you're asphyxiated. There's no oxygen available to breathe. That's head for high ground. But right after midnight 1, that's when, if you're outside and all of a sudden start noticing, and that's when the rain starts. And also, you got to realize that with it being that much higher, it will flood up north. And then an hour later, all that runoff down the small creeks and everything will flood below that an hour later. So if you've got a problem with already known flooding on creeks and everything, it's make sure keep an eye on it and be ready to move if you have to.